Welcome back. The city of Tshwane has until tomorrow to deliver clean drinking water to residents of Hammanskraal. The Human Rights Commission issued that ultimatum. Residents have been experiencing water problems for a number of years now. The ANC in Tshwane wants national government to take over water services in the city.
We are calling on national government to take over the water services of the city of Tshwane, to put them under administration and make sure that they commission that water treatment plant and they clean the Rooiwal and make sure that really the people receive the clean water, because the city of Tshwane has failed.
Staying with the story now, water experts from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research will brief the media today on the access to quality water in Hammanskraal. They'll also talk about the latest technologies developed to treat domestic and wastewater. But how is the quality of South Africa's water overall? Let's find out now from water expert Anthony Turton, who joins us live from Australia. Mr. Turton, thanks very much for your time. And I suppose that is the question as we face these issues in Hammanskraal. Talk to us about South Africa's drinking water in particular overall.
Yes, good afternoon to you and the listeners from Perth. What's happening in Hammanskraal is exactly the mirror image of what's happening in Mfuleni at the moment. So look no further than Mfuleni to see what's going to happen in other places unless we deal with this thing. The simple bottom line is that water quality has been deteriorating for some time. I predicted this in 2008, and we've been on that steady trajectory since then. One of the reasons why water quality is deteriorating is that we are simply discharging too much untreated or at best partly treated sewage into our rivers, and all rivers ultimately in South Africa become drinking water for somebody else, and that is overwhelming the water purification plants, the water treatment plants run by your major enterprises. So that's the long and the short of it. Unless we sort out the sewage management in the country, this domino is going to continue to fall.
So in terms of the latest technologies developed to treat domestic and wastewater, as you've just mentioned now, those are some of the challenges, particularly in places like Mfuleni and Hammanskraal. How are we doing overall in terms of being up to date with the latest technology?
Sadly, South Africa used to be a technology generator and exporter. In fact, if you take Singapore, one of the most successful economies in the world that's also fundamentally water constrained, they survive on reprocessing sewage water. The technology for that was provided by a Cape Town-based company called Grahamtech. Grahamtech is no longer being used in South Africa. We simply marginalised that company as a global player. So unfortunately, we've turned our back against assistance from technologically advanced entities. But the good news is that there is no shortage of technology available, and there's also no shortage of capital available. So both capital and technology are willing to come to the party, and that's what we are doing through the PPGR, the Public-Private Growth Initiative. I have a team of very competent people working within the framework of the PPGR, and what we've managed to highlight there is the concept of water as an economic enabler. And we are trying to raise 1 trillion rand, 1 trillion South African rand of capital flow back into the water sector to upgrade places exactly like Rooiwal. Rooiwal is one of those prime examples. Literally, if a contract could be signed tomorrow, within months, Rooiwal could be turned around. So there's no shortage of technology. There's no shortage of capital. Unfortunately, there's a shortage of bankable, secure projects. That's what the problem is.
So, I mean, it's taken the South African Human Rights Commission to now intervene after years of poor quality drinking water in Hammanskraal. What should happen now? I mean, one of the things that the ANC is saying is that it should become a national government competency. But in your opinion, what's the solution here?
I've recently been exposed to a number of municipal interventions through one of the major banks that's currently running a municipal capacity building enterprise. And what has shocked me, in fact surprised me from that enterprise, is there seems to be a national malady across many of the municipalities where there is unmanaged public debt. And that debt has now burdened the municipalities. And what they're trying to do now is pass that debt up the line to provincial and the national department. All that's going to do is basically encumber the national department, which is going to then become bankrupt. So we are in a very, very difficult situation now in South Africa. We are seeing this crisis reach a mature stage now. And the bottom line is the fiscus is no longer able to pay for the kind of upgrades we need. It's simply not possible. The fiscus doesn't have the money. But there's no shortage of technology and there's no shortage of capital. There's no the shortages of taxpayers' money, but not of capital. So once we can have sensible conversations, cool heads prevailing around the table, that's what's happening in the PPGI at the moment. Very cool, calm heads are coming together, and they're talking about sensible solutions. And what we're ultimately going to have to do is probably put private capital into the 854 odd wastewater treatment works in the country, not all of which are open to a public-private partnership kind of agreement, but certainly major ones like Rooiwal would be a case, Mfuleni would be a case, at Durban, there's some serious problems in Durban at the moment, that would be a case. Cape Town is fairly advanced, but that would also be a case in point. So all the major centres, we are ready to drop in sophisticated technology supported by capital in what we call a special purpose vehicle, SPV, which is a legal contracting entity that protects the capital from being pilfered and also brings the skills necessary to turn these things around. So actually this is, in my view, a good news story that we've reached this point when we can now start realizing that business as usual is simply no longer an option. We have to do things differently now.
Yeah, absolutely. It can just improve from here on. Thanks very much for your input. Live to us there from Perth, Australia. He's a water expert, Anthony Turton. Thanks for your time.